gone back to a ginger ale with a nice squeeze of lime juice.
Okay, all right, that's very interesting. More lime.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, no, it's fine. The technology wasn't working here again momentarily.
Judgmental.
So I'm still distracted there. No, if that's
if that's what you want,
that's fine.
Well, you can have a glass of white wine if you prefer, or maybe a rosé. Rosé would be quite nice with it. It's humid.
Either or. Okay, so today's confession comes from Imogen. Imogen, thank you so much for today's tale. Simon and all those forgiving souls of the confessional, I'm writing this to you with a penitent heart and seek forgiveness for my wicked deeds inflicted upon the innocent. A few years ago, whilst working for a very well-respected secondary school, it was customary for the good of the pupils and their spirituality to take them on a yearly camping weekend at a Catholic retreat. Being a good girl guide in my early years, I volunteered my skills in tent erection and became a permanent fixture at these weekends. After the first weekend away, it became very and painfully obvious that the pupils had no idea about the lack of soundproofing that tents offered, and that even though they could not see us as we could unfortunately hear all their conversations, including all their non-spiritual hormonal heathen thoughts that they'd been having about other schools staying at the camp. The weekends were fun-packed, full of great activities, but in order to enjoy the weekend, it was important to be fully rested on the Friday night, something that the team would warn our lovelies about, but being hormonal teenagers, they did not heed our warnings and would stay awake into the early hours, sometimes horrifyingly attempting to tent hop. Saturday mornings would therefore be painful. Dishevelled zombies would emerge from the tents in time for breakfast. That was normally the teaching staff, let me tell you. So in an attempt to curb their nighttime antics and excitement, the second night I would creep up to the noisiest tent and, using a vocal technique like a low guttural growl, simulated the displeasure of the legendary American brown bear. Specifically, Cassie the bear. This bear had been created to strike fear into our pupils. Cassie had been a member of a private zoo and had escaped. She now roamed the countryside, attracted to the smell of food and noise, and so if they created so much noise and had food in their tents, it might attract the unwanted visitor to the camping field where we were staying. Cassie, of course, ate children.
Yes.
This worked for a couple of years, as when the growling occurred, hushed whispers could be heard from behind the fabric. Something like, "Did you hear that? That isn't funny. Are you scared?" Unfortunately, one year things did not go to plan. I approached the tent as normal. So this is a regular thing that Imogen did. It didn't go according to plan. I approached the tent as normal, bent down and growled next to the talking heads behind the canopy. The growling was answered by a blood-curdling scream.
Of course.
So loud that it woke the rest of the camp up, including a pyjama-clad deacon from another school. Now becomes something out of a sitcom.
Yeah.
He came rushing out of his tent in his pyjamas, as did the girls, but the sight of him made the girls scream just as loud again. The deacon bellowed. "Oh, tell his reverence." No,
he didn't.
The deacon bellowed at them that he would be having words with our headmaster over their behaviour. Realising this was probably not going to go down very well if it was discovered that a member of staff was responsible, I dived for cover behind a tent, only to trip on a guide rope and ending up landing on my colleague's tent, who was now trying to placate the furious deacon.
Oh, no.
At breakfast the next morning, I was greeted by many smirking faces from staff of other schools. They knew it was me and couldn't help laugh even more at the poor deacon, who did not look at all pleased, but slightly dishevelled. The next year, no one wants to see a dishevelled deacon.
No.
The next year, the head of the retreat begged me on the second night, "Please, no growling this year. No one got to sleep last night, and if they get woken up, we won't be happy." But unfortunately, Cassie the bear had been mentioned again. Threats of her appearance had been made, and so my colleagues and I decided this could be done in a more passive way. The tent of girls had been chosen as the victims were off, and we crept into the kitchen inside the big house, and there we collected coffee granules, Weetabix and water, and made the best-looking fake bear poo this side of the M25. Fashioning it beautifully, I admired my handiwork, which was very convincing and large, and placed it on a guide rope and outer cover of the chosen tent. The next morning, there were people gagging and somewhat repulsed that such an animal could do such a thing. I secretly stood and took pride in my handiwork, handed the girls a dog poo bag and said it was their tent and their responsibility to clean it up. Yeah, well, Rum, rum. Asking if they kept food in their tent. All three sheepishly nodded their heads. I shook my head disapprovingly and explained that they knew the risks. Eventually, after a lot of complaining, pinching of noses and moaning, one pupil A, came forward to clean it up. Being a nice person, I took the poo bag and put it in the bin. I have now left the school, and my weekends at the retreat are sadly no more. I wonder even if the legend of Cassie the bear lives on, but I'm sure the memories of growling and poo have stayed with many. I also wonder if pupil A has been scarred for life. I'm sure the vision of the pyjama deacon is a sight not to be forgotten. And for this dear Simon and the confessional team, I would like to ask for forgiveness from the deacon, whose reputation probably became permanently affected, and for the pupil who will probably never go camping for fear of meeting Bear Poo again. So Imogen needs confession, needs repentance and forgiveness, and we'll check it in with Sister Susie first of all.
Well, Imogen, I was on board with the growling. I thought that was very, very funny, but I think the fake poo went a bit too far.
Really?
I think that's, because you think the bear has been that close to your tent. It's just, and also you poor pupil A, you had to clean it up. I don't think I can forgive you, Imogen.
It was made of Weetabix. A brother from another gutter.
I am on board with every aspect of this. I love this. I love the poo. I love the growling. I love the let's find a story about Cassie the bear who's attracted to non-spiritual heathen thoughts of the kids on the trips. Absolutely on board with all of this. So yes, definitely forgiven. And I love the deacon in the pyjamas. Bit more Derek Nimmo in our
It was. 6-1